get Cab Calloway on it?
Des assiettes sont des assiettes.
That's my patty waist
Des
sugar.
hommes sont des hommes.
By the way, how is your father?
But I want to know, does it bother you?
To the Break Room Classic Film fans, it's tea time for a coffee break. Welcome to another edition of Fashion Friday. So, okay, this week we're going to do a little bit cinema coffee, more cinema coffee than we are Fashion Friday. And you know, okay, I have my own coffee mug. I usually do use this mug, which is why I use it in the shot. But I also clean it out as soon as I use it because it's like, this is like a display piece more than anything. But I have been using it for our cinema coffee talks, but I just never go for it when we shoot, when I'm shooting these. And the one time that I did, I ended up editing it out. So I was like, so much for that. So right now it's on display as I usually do. And I have my other coffee mug, as you can see my lipstick print on there. So hopefully you have your coffee too, because we're going to be doing more of a cinema coffee piece more than Fashion Friday. Although when it comes to films, they're kind of hand in hand, right? I mean, there's everything there that makes a film work, from the wardrobe to the music to the actors to the script, the direction, you know, the landscape. There's so, you know, cinematography. There's so many things that go into making a film what it is, right? So it's fitting to have Fashion Friday and Cinema Coffee go together. This week, you know, if you follow me on Twitter, you hear me talk, especially more recently, about wear the dress. I'm always talking about life's too short, wear the dress, which really started after Gloria Vanderbilt passed away. That was like the first thing I saw the next morning. And usually when life was normal, the night before, I already had what I'm going to wear the next day planned out. That's just something I've been doing as far as I can remember, like whenever I started being able to pick out my own clothes. And I'm a Gemini, so it's like usually things change. like I used to, whenever I would go out with friends, I was like, you know, if we're going to the mall or the movies or whatever, I'm like, now you know me, like I'm gonna be dressed and ready to go. So if you're gonna wait, if you're not going to be on time, more likely than not, I'm not going to be ready when you get here, because I'm going to be like, fashion show, like, let's change clothes, let's change into that. So that particular day, that particular night, I already had what I was going to wear out. And it was a dress that I usually wear when there's like some kind of something happening, some kind of event or some kind of celebration or what have you. And those dresses, because those kind of dresses, you know, I make myself to wear. And I was like, you know, tomorrow I'm just going to wear that dress because I feel like it, because it makes me feel good and I want to wear it and I want to feel good. I mean, who doesn't want to feel good? So I had already planned that I'm going to wear that dress. Then when I saw that news the next morning on Gloria Vanderbilt, it's for me, no matter how many years you lived, you can live to be 105, not to get into Frank Sinatra, but you can live to be 105 to me. And it seems like it happens so quickly, because before you know it, here we are on that day. Like, now this is it. That's the end of your lifespan. And it registered with me more, I think, when I lost my mom, that something that you dread, you never think of happens. And it's like, how did I get here in this moment? Like, it's just, you look up and it's here. And I was like, I'm so glad I had already made the decision that I'm going to wear this dress, because, I mean, time is so limited no matter how many years we live. Just wear the dress. Don't wait for some kind of a special occasion or some kind of event that you're going to. Just wear it. Even if you're just going to be in the house like we're doing now, just wear the dress. So the two dresses that I have on display are prime examples of what I mean when I say just wear the dress. These are the kind of dresses that I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be that for you. And the same rule can apply with men. This isn't just a female thing. The same rules can apply with men. Just wear the suit or wear what makes you feel good, like that outfit that makes you feel stunner. Like, do it, because life's short. So wear it. I'm putting on display what I call the RUSSEL. You probably can't see it with me sitting here right now, but I'll have some photos for you so you can get a good look at it. Since we are currently in the Jane Russell month on TCM as Star of the Month, I do have a Jane Russell dress, and I also have a Marilyn Monroe dress, both of them inspired by Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. This one I did create for myself, but I created for some occasion, and I think it was for my birthday, because usually I always come up with something that I want to wear for my birthday coming up, and I'll create some kind of an outfit. So this one was created for my birthday, and this is what I call my Fred and Ginger dress. When I saw this print, the print kind of found me, and it said something like waltzing couples, and I'm like, yeah, but it's Fred and Ginger. So I named this the Fred and Ginger dress because of the dancing couple on there. It's just so like, shall we dance, and top hat, and I fell in love with the print, and I wanted it to be on display. So I wanted to use every inch of fabric that I could of it. So you may not be able to tell because I had to pack it down with the petticoat under it that I have created under it. It is a big dress. There's a lot of petticoat going on under here, which you may not be able to tell the way that I have it displayed, but this is what I mean by just wear the dress. So branching off from that, I received a message. This is what I have with me. April 4th. I received a message April 4th, and it was on a day where I really needed that message to come up because as we have really gone into this self-isolation, this self-quarantine, the more I realized I was just focused on the news and really nothing else. From the moment I got up, it was like I'm checking my phone immediately for the news. Like, what's the latest? What happened while I was asleep? Not even realizing I'm not getting much sleep because I'm staying up all night, and before I know it, it's 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm hooked on the news. I'm a night owl. I always have been. My family was, we were all night owls working, with my mom and I. Sometimes it would be 5 o'clock in the morning and we're still sewing, and she's like, is that Leave It to Beaver coming on? I'm going to bed. Like, I didn't know it was that late. Early. I'm going to bed. But it was being night owls. It's usually in a creative mode. Like, you're trying to get your stuff together and you're detailed, you're perfectionist. And now it's like news. Like, and I feel, yes, we need to be watching the news. We need to be aware with what's going on. We need to be focused on how can we make this situation better, which is like staying home. But it began to really just overtake everything to the point, like, even like my posts, I would have them just scheduled out. So I wouldn't have to like necessarily manually tweet anything or put anything on social media, just already have it scheduled. And I'm like, even when life was normal, I would do things if I'm having a bad day or even a good day for myself. Like, I am an avid reader. I love reading. I mean, I'm probably the only person, and I'm sure maybe some people are out there who would understand, whose parents may have been a little worried, like, oh my gosh, are all those books yours? Like, I would go to the library and come back with literally totes of books. Like, I am an avid reader. I love reading. That would be like something for me that I look up and the sun is coming up and I'm still reading. watching movie watches, movies that make me feel good or new to me movies. Those are kind of things I do when life are normal that I realized I'm not doing these things now. And when self-quarantine came upon us, I was like, okay, so there's so many books that I have that I haven't even started, particularly books that I got from a book haul, from a book sale over the summer. And I'm like, I have them all where they need to go now. I'll read some of those. There's still some other books that I haven't gotten to. There's some films that I have bought that I just haven't opened. You know, I have already seen, and I bought them because they're now released on Blu-ray, or now they've come out on Criterion, and I'm like, now I can watch those. And I haven't done any of that. I even got a puzzle out, which I posted, that my mom had started on. When I opened the box, I saw that my mom had already started on. She had put the edges together in a napkin, because puzzling was something that she picked up, and it ended up becoming a family hobby. And that was something that we would just have on the table, usually with cardboard or some kind of board under it, so we can glue it down when we were finished. And it got to the point, like, we did over 200. I think the last time we actually counted, it was 200 and something. And then, you know, life happened. We had so many puzzles already in the closet that we were going to get to that we just never got to. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do a puzzle, let me complete the one that apparently we were going to start and we just never got to. It's still sitting on the table. I've opened it. My mom's napkin is there and it's open, but I haven't even gotten to that yet. And it's like, it dawned on me that particular day that I received this message that, hey, you know what? I need to have a timeout with news, because as unhealthy as what's going on is happening, like the actual virus, so is your mental health of just being impacted by news almost 24 hours a day. No matter if I was going on the computer, on my phone, on the news, that's it. And being self-quarantined, you know, I've only been out twice just for a pickup order from the grocery store, where they just really just put it in your trunk and you're on your way. So it's like, I'm in the house 24 hours and it's just news. And that particular night, I was like, you know, no, I'm doing something for me. I'm going to watch a movie, and I'm going, if I'm going to stay up all night, I'm going to do it with watching movies. And while I was watching it, I chose The Ugly American, which is a Marlon Brando film that I have, and I had seen it, you know, I revisited it over the summer. So when it was released on Blu-ray, I bought it, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, I already just revisited it. Is that like, am I just like not even, I revisited. I revisited. I had already revisited it. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. So I was like, I'm going to get to it. And I just never got around to it. And I was like, okay, tonight is the night I'm going to do that. I'm going to open it. So I took it out of its packaging and I opened it and I watched it. And I was happy, like, and to see the colors. I don't know if you guys have seen The Ugly American, but it is, for me, an underrated Marlon Brando film. As much as we talk about On the Waterfront, A Streetcar Named Desire, I'm not taking away from any of that. Personally, my favorite Marlon Brando film is Guys and Dolls, which I'm sure a lot of you who know me know this, even though my nickname comes from A Streetcar Named Desire, that's a different cinema coffee altogether. If you don't know where that comes from, if you don't know the backstory behind that, I do have an actual written out cinema coffee piece. That was my second cinema coffee piece I ever wrote for my mom after I lost my mom. So I'll put a link to that if you want to get into the ins and outs of how our nicknames became Stella and Blanche. But I think that for me, it's films like The Ugly American, Moratori, that are kind of pushed to the side or not as well known. And he gives some of his best performances in those. For me, I really like people to focus on or know more about rather his work with wanting equality for people, just as a human race, not by your color. But I also like to bring attention to films that he's not as known for, that maybe more people have never heard of, or I've been meaning to get around to that and I just haven't yet. And The Ugly American for me is really one I think you should check out if you haven't seen it. And the Blu-ray addition to it, when I was so happy that I made that what I was going to watch, because the colors on the big screen, it was like, I felt like I was there, like I was a part of it. I love films that are like that. And then, of course, I followed that film watch up with War and Peace, because that's what you do, right? Like you pick a near 8 hour film to follow it up with, because again, I felt like if I'm going to be up until 5-6 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to do it with something I like looking at. And while I was watching The Ugly American before I transitioned into War and Peace, I received a notification and it was a message. And the message, I'm not going to read all of it because it's very lengthy, but it's from someone who does not have a social media account. So I'm just going to read just a couple of paragraphs, which says, I check your Twitter sometimes, one of the only pages I actually look at. And I see you post a lot of classic foreign cinema. Now, I like to say international cinema, but, I get it. Foreign cinema. What I've seen of classic foreign cinema, I have really loved, but I really am overdue to check out a lot more of it. And then it goes on to say, are there any new to you or interesting classics you've watched lately? It really seems like you've seen every movie ever made, so I'm sure there are very few new ones out there for you. I'm always looking for suggestions on what to view next. So if you have any at all that you would like to recommend, please go right ahead. I'm all ears. So this message, I smiled the whole time I was reading it, because it reminded me of, yes, I love films. Films are like my lifeline. And during all of this, I should be watching way more films, even if it's films that I've already seen, because this is what you do when things in your life happen and you need some kind of break from it. And this is like one of those prime examples of one of those times. And I'm like, thank you so much for writing this. And I wanted to write back right away, because it also brought about that I hadn't even thought about. I'd totally been pushed in the back burner of my mind, that I had written a Cinema Coffee blog piece about a little over a year ago, about coping through cinema. And I had written about all the films that I had looked at after I had lost my mom. Going through that process, it's such a blur. It's such a unreal moment that you're going through. And I've talked about that before, I think last week or week before, that you don't really realize when you come out of it. You just know all of a sudden you're here. But I did think to start writing down some films, because you just want to watch anything that makes you feel unnumb, anything that can try to make you connect with the world again, or with something. And for me, it wasn't about being social. I shut down any kind of social activity. I did not want to talk to anyone. I commended the friends who understood that, who would just leave messages and say, I'm thinking of you. That's the best thing that you can do for someone who doesn't really want to talk about it right now. I think that is the best thing you can do, is to say, I don't know what you're going through. I can't imagine, but I'm here if you want to talk, and I'm here if you don't, if you just want to be quiet, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't want to talk. I just want to be quiet and just watch something to kind of take my mind off of what was happening, to try to process what had just happened. So I started writing down, I started keeping a journal of the films that I was watching, because some of them, when I say helped, I mean, you have those moments of escape a little bit, where you are in tune with the storyline enough that like you've dazed out a little bit, like, okay, I'm focused on the story, and then of course sometimes that doesn't last as long and you're like drained again. But I just kept watching it, and I realized as many films as I have seen, there were a lot more that I haven't. And I really went to like places that classic cinema was free to watch, because I was trying to soak it. I was trying to make every part of my day, especially in the beginning where I just would not open the blinds, did not want to come out of my room, one film after another. So I needed something that was going, okay, that's finished, let's go to this one, let's go to this one, let's go to this one. And that pretty much made up all of my day. So I started putting that list together, and then finally last year I was like, hey, I'm doing cinema coffees all the time. I need to write a cinema coffee for that, for anyone who may need it. I mean, it may not even be that you've lost someone. It could be anything that has happened that you need some kind of coping mechanism. And for me, it was cinema. That was what I found to be my coping device. So I listed films that I had just watched that I had never seen before, and it was a lot of like B pictures, and I'm like, they're just as good. I mean, for me, I've always liked B pictures, so they're just as good, and they're filled with people that that are usually just the character actors in an A-list film, but now they're carrying their own. So I looked at those. I looked at films that I remembered enjoying a lot over the course of time that I wanted to rewatch. Like, okay, I remember I liked that one. Let me get into that one. And of course, even branching into international films. Because I had just, not too long before I lost my mom, I had just discovered Alain Delon. And talk about like beaming. I remember going to my mom, because I had just discovered him in Purple Noon, and not realizing I had already seen him prior in Barcelona. When I watched Barcelona, which I revisited a few nights ago after I had made my pack, I'm gonna do more movie watching. I revisited it, that word again, the other night, for Jean-Paul Belmondo's birthday. I was like, okay, that's gonna be my movie watch. I'm gonna watch that again, and it brought back the memory of the first time I saw the film. It was English voiceovers to their characters, and I'm like I cringe at that. Like I'm not a fan. Like I'm not a fan. I'm like, oh no, okay, let me get, because those two figures on screen I was like hooked. But it wasn't until I saw Purple Noon and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, and then I clicked, like, this is the same guy. Because when I was watching Purple Noon, it was actually Maurice Renault that I was like, he's attractive, like, okay. And it was through kind of looking up stuff on him. That's how I got the Alain Delon connection. Like, oh, I have seen him. So that opened up a whole new wardrobe of films for me, that I enjoyed. So I did watch a lot of his films during my coping film watch. A lot of them did not have English subtitles, and I am the kind of person I'm totally fine doing that, and I know a lot of people aren't, but give it a try. I mean, pick an actor that you relate to, that you like, that you enjoy watching. The first time that I can remember doing that, what made me start doing that, was Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni, because I knew them from when I was a kid through my mom. Because this is something I have written in my Cinema Coffee pieces, that when Ready to Wear came out, I knew Sophia Loren because of my mom growing up. And we talked about that last week. Your fundamentals, Sophia Loren for the female version. She was one of the fundamentals for me growing up. Sophia Loren, Elizabeth Taylor, Joan Crawford, Betty Davis, Greta Garbo, and for me, Dorothy Dandridge. Growing up, those were the ones you knew as a kid, before you can remember. I Love Lucy. That's a different plot entirely. Lucille Ball, but remember when that came out in the interviews, I was not able to look at it because I have seen it since. I was not able to look at it at the time. But I remember seeing so much buzz about it. And I asked my mom, I'm like, okay, so what is this about her and this guy? This guy, indeed. Are you kidding me? Marcello? Oh my gosh. But you have to learn. I was like, so what? And she's like, she was even like, oh, let me school her. Like they did a lot of, they were a on-screen couple to be unmatched. I mean, they were like the on-screen couple in the 50s and 60s. And I'm like, okay. And because I wanted to learn more, that's how, as I grew older, I started watching their films. At the time, I watched them with no English subtitles, and I was totally fine with that because there is a connection with cinema, and that's something that in the message that that was written to me, that is so true about with Alfred Hitchcock. Saying that even if the volume is off, even if it's if you don't have any sound, you still know what's going on. And that is true for silent film, and for me it's also good. It's also applied to a good film, and I think it can even be applied with international film, that it can be good even if you don't know what's being said, because they are presenting that clear of a picture. And I have even recently I've gotten my dad into international films. He's like, I don't know where you find these, but I like these more than like all these other classic films like I grew up on. Like I've introduced him to Three Penny Opera, Elevator to the Gallows, which it was one of the my love affair with Elevator to the Gallows. That was a film that I discovered in my coping cinema watches, which I do have. If you want to print it out, I will have the link to that cinema coffee piece. And if you want to print it out, a list of all the films that I watched, feel free to do it and let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen them, if you like them, if they're new to you, or what have you. But Elevator to the Gallows was one of the films that I watched then, having that was like a Gilda effect on me. And if you to know me is to know Gilda, 1946. That had a Gilda effect on me. Like I was, talk about hypnotized. I love that film. That's like a breath of another air, if that's even a phrase. Like I love that film. I've introduced him to recently 8½, and A Special Day. Okay, don't let me list off all the Sophia Loren, Marcello Mastroianni films that I'm in love with. I think my favorite film from them is probably Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. Personally, that's my favorite film of theirs. Please let me know what your favorite film is of theirs. I know there's different, like they've done 50. I think Sophia said they did 15 together, but I have seen that it said that they've done 17 together. But as far as I know, I think I've seen all of them. I'd have to go through their filmography again to see if I've seen all of them. And again, a few of them I watched during my cinema coping, my coping through cinema, with the one with What a Woman with Charles Boyer. Oh gosh, there's so many that were new to me. Even Charles Boyer, there were some new to me. Maxime, I did get to watch that. I did get to watch the the second film that he and Irene did for out of the 3 films that they had did together. I had already seen Together Again, which I adore. I think it's completely I'm laughing because there's a scene in there about strip poker that I'm in tears when she says that. Like Irene Dunn delivers a line with the best of them. I love Together Again. It's a cute comedy. If you haven't seen it, 1944, please watch that. But I love Love Affair. I No shade to An Affair to Remember. I know that one gets most of the playtime when we talk about that remake. For me, it's Love Affair. I have a love affair with Love Affair 1939 with Irene Dunn and Charles Boyer. And I'm a Charles Boyer girl. Like, that was a household name in the house. So to discover, like, what? I haven't seen this Charles Boyer film? Like, are you kidding? I'm on it. But I knew I had not seen their second film together. And when I saw that it was available to watch for free, are you kidding? I'm there. I watched it, and that was one of those films that took me away, like, completely brought me out of, the state, and you're watching and you're focused on the storyline. But I can go on, and I can list so many films that I watched and rewatched, from Tyrone Power, The Luck of the Irish. I remember as I was watching it, I was like, I have seen this before, but it's been a really long time that I had completely forgotten about it. So if you haven't seen The Luck of the Irish, please see that. Since then, getting back into my regular routine of movie watching, there have been new to me films, none of which have been more, I don't want to use the word important to me, or more mind-blowing to me than War and Peace. I'm sure people have been tired of me posting about War and Peace, but I'm telling you, for me, that is a cinematic portrait painted unlike any painting I've ever seen in my life. You talk about a painting on screen coming to life in your own living room. I had to remember to check myself to to close my mouth, because my mouth was like it would go dry because my mouth was just hanging open, like, watching it. And I was like, oh, like, close up. I had seen so many posts that Criterion had put out for it when it was going to be released, right before it was going to be released. And I'm looking at these pictures, and I kept looking it up, like, wait a minute, is this like a film, or is this like, what is going on? I was only familiar with the Audrey Hepburn, Henry Fonda, and Mel Ferrar adaptation from 1956. I had seen that. It is what it is. So I had seen that one, but I had not seen or had heard of the 1966 version. And in looking it up, you see that runtime near 8 hours, and I was like, oh, wait, like, time out, like, let's get this together. Went ahead, during the Criterion, with the Criterion release, I saw it oh gosh, I miss going to my bookstore. Okay, that's enough about that. But I do miss that. I do miss going into the bookstore and buying DVDs. Like, I miss that. I know you can do it online, but it's something so personal about taking your time, knowing today is the day I'm going, and I'm gonna search the sea of books and DVDs. I'm gonna have me a good time. So I miss that. I miss that. But anyhow, when I saw it, I was like, War and Peace. Okay, let's do this. And I had it in my hand before I can even think twice about it. And it was the same thing when that weekend I just put it in, hit play. I was like, don't think about runtime. Just hit play, start. I started early. It snapped me up within the first 5 minutes, if not before. Just that first hollering sound that you hear when it opens, and you're seeing a field, but you're hearing these battlefield cries. I knew I was in for something special. It introduced me to not only a list of actors now that are new to me. It introduced me to Vyacheslav Tikhonov, which, again, I'm sure you're probably, here she goes again, like, because I've been posting about that a lot lately, because that is my current filmography challenge. So if you want to talk about what's new to you now, for me, that's what's new to me, his films. And I'm at the point now, I have seen more than I haven't seen, and I have my list. all checked off with the ones I'm going in no particular order, watching his. And so far, it happened in Benkovo, 1957, and Will Survive or Will Live Until Monday. Those two I talk about. I know I post a lot about because I am in love with those two. I have now branched more into his later work. And 17 Moments of Spring. Yes, I have seen. I made that over the holidays. Since it was 12 episodes, I did one episode each night, like 1, 2, 3. I just went through it that way. But War and Peace is in a class of its own, not just for his filmography, but cinema in general for me. Please don't let the runtime scare you. Don't let that you haven't seen it scare you. If you have the opportunity to buy it, I cannot encourage you to buy a film more than I can with War and Peace, which I would bring it, but it's up. If you might be able to see it, it's up on my little display case, the CD case that I have for it. I cannot encourage anyone to watch that more than any other film. Talk about a film revelation. So if you want something to get your mind off of anything, this would do it. War and Peace would do it completely. So I know I'm just rambling on. I love talking about cinema. I love talking about actors and films that inspire me and films that make me feel good. But I want to hear from you guys. Like, what films are you watching right now to cope, to get through this, to make it for me, like, it's like on Noir Alley, Noir Alley's on Saturday. If I can just get to Saturday, I got Noir Alley going. Like I don't care how many times I've seen it. This is a normalcy. Like my Noir Alley time, because I always say, every Saturdays for my mom and I, as I have mentioned before, every Saturday for more than 12 years was a movie night. As I've said, it was like clockwork. 8 o'clock, we were there, popcorn, coffee, we had it down. So after I lost her, I just cut that out. That ended that. I couldn't bring myself to try to do that. And then I started hearing about Noir Alley, and it took me a minute to creep back into some kind of normalcy with what I was doing. So it was kind of like I was skirting around it. Like, you kind of cut the corner and you're kind of looking and okay. And before I knew it, I was like, well, okay, I'll watch it this week. And then I'll watch, and it grew into, that is what I do now on Saturday night. So if you follow me for a time, you'll see me post pictures of when life was normal, of like a classic actor, Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, Sophia Loren, Elizabeth Taylor, sitting under a hairdryer or something. And I'm like, my age group going out, getting ready to have fun, night on the town, me. Like, I gotta hurry up and wash my hair and get it curled and blow dried before Noir Alley comes on, because that's my movie night. I'm getting dolled up and dressed up to go sit and watch Noir Alley. So anyhow, if you have any questions for me, let me know. And let me know, again, what you're looking at, what you're reading, what you're watching, some films that are new to you or films that you look at like on a regular basis just to get through, just to get by. I'd like to hear from you. And who knows, maybe we can do this more live in the future, so that way we can communicate. Like, I can see any questions and answer them, and we can have a talk about it later. So until then, please be safe, please be well, please stay healthy, please stay home, and watch more cinema. Watch the news, be informed, know what's going on, but watch more cinema. Until next time, à bientôt.